Hi, and welcome to today's SME Business Podcast. Your host, Mark, will be joining you to interview a founder of an SME business each week, highlighting lessons learned and revealing insights. Listen and learn each week on how to get and stay ahead.
Hi, dear listeners. Thank you for tuning in for the next episode of the SME Business Podcast. Today we're joined by David Somerfleck from DMS Blue. DMS Blue is an enterprise digital marketing agency that helps small businesses with digital marketing. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Mark. How are you today?
Yeah, good, great. Yeah, it's a bit gray here, but it's still good. Enjoying recording a new episode, so it's always good and it's always enjoyable to speak to other people, other entrepreneurs, and learn something more.
And I appreciate you having me on. Uh, this is a subject that I'm very passionate about,
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Yeah, exactly. And I got a lot of questions lined up, so yeah, I'm sure we'll fill it all up. First question.
Okay.
Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and how you got into entrepreneurship?
Yes, absolutely. Um, well, basically, I started. Well, I went to college and studied English, and my goal was to be a writer. I studied Chaucer and Keats and Shelley and Shakespeare and uh, other writers, of course, and that was my goal. And about halfway through college, I worked internships and began to discover, as a young college student, there really were not that many well paying jobs for writers or copywriters in my area, geographically. And this was in the mid 90s, and the internet as a marketing tool was still very new. So I began studying programming and website development and design and internet marketing. And upon graduation, I began working for several marketing agencies and advertising agencies in different capacities. And I learned very quickly that my background in English and in writing gave me some advantage over more experienced developers or programmers, but I could also look at the problems and the situations that business owners were facing in a different way. So that's basically how I got started in marketing. And as I got older and matured, of course, I gained more and more experience working for different companies, working as a independent contractor or freelancer in between these positions, and having other positions as well. So, after a while, you start to get a little bit confident, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you grow. Initially, you're purely driven by passion, if you will.
Yeah,
And then you learn and learn and learn, and then you start getting confident and yeah.
when I taught journalism at the college level, I remember my first time I was very nervous. And I went to a much more experienced professor and I said, listen, I'm a little bit nervous about teaching. I've never taught at the college level before. Surely they must know at least as much, if not more, than I do. And I remember he took me aside and he said, David, this is not what you think. Let your experience, give you a place of confidence that, they are the student. You've already graduated and you graduated with a specialty. So don't get all intimidated. When in doubt, be more organized. And the better organized you are, the more prepared you will be for any potential unexpected event. And then that carried over into business too. And I should add also, during this time, I was a certified small business mentor for the U.S. Small Business Administration. And I did that off and on for about 10 years. And I realized capacity, you start to see trends in the habits of small business owners, nonprofit organizations, and entrepreneurs, and you can diagnose issues very quickly and really get your hands dirty, so to speak, with the mechanisms of business and kind of get in there to help businesses retool and reboot very quickly if the will is there. So it's a topic obviously I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, that's obvious, like that comes through already. But it's not a video kind of thing, but it's already obvious just from talking to you, um, that you really, yeah, care about it.
I
Um,
do, I very sincerely do. I've
yeah,
seen a lot of really good, kind people, uh, you know, lose their businesses, lose their homes, lose their cars. I've seen a lot of good people have businesses that you would want to succeed, but there were factors in play where you simply couldn't help them.
no,
So
no,
it's
no.
a subject I feel very strongly about.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and then unfortunately, with this whole current crisis as well, it's not really helping. Where a lot of small businesses are being left behind, if you will, um,
Yes.
because governments around the world are not necessarily reaching out their hand, which is sad. Because I think I don't know the number in the US, but I think it's similar in percentage. I think it was like 95
Hmm.
or 98%
Hmm.
of the economy or something is small and medium enterprise.
Yes. That number is very statistically similar
Yes.
in the United States. And I would say, according to the U.S. Small Business Administration in the U.S., somewhere between 95 to 97, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, so
Some
something similar.
percentage
Yeah.
therein of small business owners will fail statistically
Yes.
within their first 2 to 3 years,
Yes.
if
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
sooner.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
know that number is greater for restaurants and other types of businesses. Now, with COVID 19 amongst the population, and in the US, it's running rampant uh, because there's just so much conspiracy misinformation going
Yes.
on, and people don't want to wear masks and they think it's a hoax or what have you. And that attitude is encouraged
Yes.
by many people. So that rate of failure for small businesses, I would hazard a guess that it's probably a good deal higher than that right now. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's a very dark time for business owners. So you've got to be very savvy. You really need to be in a position where you're receptive to change.
Yes. Yeah. So everything, like everything changed, and if you're not moving along with what the current environment requires. And
Change
unfortunately,
is your friend.
not every business model, if you will, necessarily lends itself to uh, still operating. For instance, like especially in the UK, the events industry is notorious as in being hit, where events can't um, be held, or they can
Hmm.
be held with such low numbers that basically the numbers don't work, which is really
Right.
sad because I think the most famous recent example is that a lady that had a business that basically does embroidery for um, movies, but also she did embroidery for dresses for Kate and Meghan Markle.
Hmm.
She had to move back in with her mother,
Mm.
and she literally is going hungry
Yes, and
because
it's
because that whole thing, that whole part is not happening, and
and it's
yeah.
very unfortunate. And the thing is, when you look at someone like that, for me personally, I don't want to say it's heartbreaking, but it's very saddening because it doesn't have to be that way. If you can work with business owner before they hit that area,
Yes.
before it gets too bad, that tipping point. If you can work with them before it gets that bad, you can
Yes.
turn things around.
Yeah.
In many cases, the issues you're dealing with could be organizational, could
Oh
be
yeah, of course.
it
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
could be financial, but it could also be personality, where
Yes.
they're resistant to change and they
Of
just
course.
simply are they push back against any amelioration. You can't help them because they don't want to. I
No. No. No.
remember a long time ago. This is just one example. My God, I know probably hundreds. I'm a big animal lover, and I remember talking to a woman at a shelter because my wife and I were going to adopt an animal, and I was talking to her about her needs, and we were talking about marketing and building the nonprofit organization. And I said, look, I love animals. It's very subject very near and dear to my heart. I'd be happy to create, a very beautiful, mobile responsive website for you. I could probably make you number one in Google locally for your type of animal shelter because there's very little competition for it here. And I could really do this, and I could do it quickly. What I would ask you in return would be that you would let me do it and use what I could provide. And she said, "Oh no, I couldn't do that. I need to be in control. I would want everything to look the way I want it to look." And I just said, "All right, well, God bless you. Let's just do what we came here to do."
Yeah. That's sad. But like yeah, you have to like change. Like things that I
Just
was doing last year. Like I can't do right now. So I'm also changing business around.
yeah,
And that's just fact.
responsive.
Yeah, no, it's a fact of life. But
Yeah,
yeah, in this case, I do feel for the lady because um, the average person on the street is not gonna order custom embroidery for a dress, if you get my point. So
no,
basically,
but
her
that's
market was basically movie studios,
yes,
um, yeah, high-end weddings, and then weddings have been restricted. So people
yes,
go like, I'm not gonna spend um, I don't know, let's say 60K on the dress anymore
right.
because they can't even do a big wedding. So they go like, well, actually, we'll postpone this wedding.
That same person, I would
Yeah,
say, what can we do to pivot very quickly
yeah, yeah, of course.
while
But
you still have revenue? I would
yes,
say
yes,
get on Eventbrite, get on meetup.com, get on
yes,
Facebook, and immediately start conducting sewing workshops, sewing
yes, yes,
classes, start having virtual fashion shows.
yes,
Perhaps you could design elaborate robes for professional wrestlers on TV or what have you,
yes,
or come up with a line of suits, work with other designers, make a list of all the different things that you could conceivably do and
yes,
begin them now
yes.
before it's too late. And
No, no,
now
of
it
course.
sounds like, unfortunately, it may be too late.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. It is also partially comes from where initially the UK government said that they were not going to leave anyone behind and they were
Hmm.
not going to put any limits. And then they kind of like back down basically, which is where the situation is where it is. But yeah, it is what it is. To be fair, and also we people have to remember like um, it's not personal, that kind of thing. It's just a you know um, the sign of, if you will, the the period that we're in.
Yeah.
That's perfectly viable businesses that's before we're
We,
doing, I don't know, 200 300K in three
yeah.
months, and then literally
Entropy.
if then literally if the government shuts down the sector, then yeah,
Yeah, entropy is a natural law
yeah,
of nature that if some force does not step in on a regular recurring basis to tweak something, then nature's law, entropy, is that the status we're accustomed to will disintegrate.
yes,
And right now, we're in a state of entropy due to the pandemic, but also the resulting financial consequences of that. So
Yes.
it's really incumbent upon the business owners and entrepreneurs and nonprofit organizations and startup founders out there today to not only innovate, but really think, look, how can I pivot? I hate to use that term so often, but how can I
Yes.
change position so
Yes.
that we can accommodate what's going on in the world today?
Yes. Yes.
There is no business today that should not be online, that should not be concerned with how they rank in Google, that is not using video conferencing, that doesn't use e-commerce. It's utterly ridiculous not to use e-commerce today. And
Yes.
it doesn't matter what you do. If you have a business of any kind, you need money to survive. You have to pay bills. So why every website doesn't have e-commerce is beyond me. I don't understand it. If
Yes.
you're a dentist, doctor, lawyer, accountant, a plumber, electrician, a bookkeeper, whatever it is that you do, you need money to pay your bills. So you should be taking payments through your company website, offering downloads, doing everything you can to go from meeting people face to face to interacting online,
Yes.
from networking physically face to face to doing it online. The mediums are there. They've been there actually for decades now.
Yeah.
We could have done video consulting with clients decades ago.
Yes. And
People
only
wouldn't
like
do it.
no, I know, and this is the funny part as well. For instance, like the Zooms of the world, where it
Yeah,
really took off, and people are like, literally like Googling what was Zoom,
yeah,
because I
and
think that was like one of the initial search terms that like blew up on Google.
yeah,
And then you go like, as a semi-technical person, you go like, well, how did people not know? But
lack
that,
of interest.
yeah, and
How
also
many?
yeah, we resisted to change, and also
Oh,
what's funny with the Zoom was that
it's so
um,
wasteful.
the security issues. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, they grew because they had like a link where basically there was no password.
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically literally that's how they advertised. So I still remember those billboards. And then of
Yes.
course what happened is people started, like it's a technical term, Zoom bombing. So
Yes.
people were joining Zoom conferences,
Yes.
and then because there was no password on it, some weird things happened where with some let's say adult teams.
Yes.
Uh, and then
D-
yeah, that was so funny because you go like, well, yeah, that's why the other people were asking for passwords. But yeah, it's
Yes, and you have to find solutions to these issues, not be
yes,
stymied
yes,
by them and knocked back. There's so many competitors to Zoom now. You have Google Meet, Facebook
yes,
has their thing. There's a company in Norway called Whereby.
yeah,
There's Jitsi, there's Blue Jean, there's so many more now. There's
yes,
Skype and WebEx and on and on. So if you're someone like me, I favor privacy.
yes,
So I I have secure video calls with my clients. I tell them what procedure to go through.
yes,
And I tell them if you refuse to follow these procedures, I'm not going to be there because I value privacy. You must enter the password given, you must go to the link I give you
yes,
and follow everything. But it's really unfortunate. I mean, when I look for networking events, just the other day I was looking at chambers of commerce and looking for networking events, and none of my area chambers were having events online.
yeah. It was so weird.
They're still having face-to-face meetings,
I know.
and I
It's
remember
like, and it's not just the
it's a
US. I
profound
see it here.
disconnect.
I see it here as well. And I was going to initially I was a Chamber of Commerce member as well with my business,
It's a
and
terrible waste of money right now.
I was like going there and like it was just like it's so sad because these people, for instance, like had great products and services, and I was just sitting there as well and going like, if you would only go online,
But they have
then
no
then
interest in doing it, so you can't help them.
no,
They're
and you go there like you're like I don't know, happy with like let's say low six figure revenue, and I'm like, but what you offer is so unique that actually, if you go online, you can take it to seven figures.
Yeah.
But
They can't.
yeah,
They can't see that.
yes,
That's one of the key stumbling blocks
yes,
that many people have, is that they cannot see it themselves, whether it's visualization,
yeah,
they don't see it. So
no,
because they don't see it, it's not a problem, or they don't think it's a problem. So things go on. I
yes,
remember once going to, my wife got me into a lot of health food. And so we went to a health food store, and I remember looking at the health food store website, obviously because I'm like that. And I remember saying to her, it's like, it's such a shame. They don't take orders online. They have events there at their quaint shop, but they don't promote them online, so you have no way of knowing about them in advance. You can't purchase tickets to the events. They don't stream it online, so you can't possibly watch it at home. And I went home and I emailed the woman who owned it, and I said, listen, my wife and I went to your health food store. We enjoyed the experience. We liked it very much. Are you at all interested in being online? I could help you get to number one in Google, again, because there's no competition locally. You
yes,
could take orders online. You could have it set up for delivery or curbside pickup. Are you at all interested? And she wrote me back a nasty email and just said, look, I'm already stressed out with so much work. Our sales are dropping. We don't know what to do. I've got 10 employees who I can't pay. I just don't know if we're going to be able to handle this. And I said, all right, have a nice day. What can I do with that?
yeah. No, it's funny you bring this up. I had a bit like a local fish and chip shop, so British, British things. Hashtag
Oh, I
so
love
British.
fish and chips. I haven't had that
Anyway,
in
so
so
the
long. There's
yeah,
nobody who delivers.
yeah. So this is the fun part as well. So yeah, in general, Uber and Deliveroo and the Just Eats of the world, whatever. We all have them, and basically there was this fish and chips shop locally that was really good and like full. And then
Yeah.
it was like, you hit a plateau, that kind of thing, because you can only service so many people
Yes.
for takeaway and sit down. And so I
Yeah.
was like, like go to Deliveroo guys or something. And yes,
Yeah.
you have to pay them a cut, but then like you can scale up, which also, for instance, means that even if you don't want to do more revenue, it means that, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, you can close earlier because you can
Yes.
make your revenue in a shorter time. Or
Yes.
you can be like, hey, you know what, instead of 6 days a week, we only open 5 days a week because th yeah, we make more revenue in the days that we're still open, that kind of thing. And then
Yes.
and then the funny part is, or the sad part, depending on how you see it, they were like, oh no, we don't see the point. Why would we do that?
Yeah.
And then of course like COVID hit, and then now they started delivering with Deliveroo. And you just
Eh,
go like, like if you listened to me before, and I get it, like I'm not, I don't know everything, but if everybody else in the restaurants in the same street is doing it, then yeah, you probably should do that as well, just
when
to
it
not miss out on orders, that kind of thing.
when it comes to running a business, it's really paramount that business owners and entrepreneurs understand the wolf is always at the door.
Yes,
You can, even if you're an independent contractor or freelancer or whatever you call yourself, if you're a single person entity business, one bad client, whether they're intentionally bad or not, can sink a business or cause all kinds of drama and issues. As a digital marketing professional, if I have well, I certainly wouldn't permit it now, but maybe 20 years ago, it's possible. But if I had one client who had scope creep, which is what we call it when a project continues indefinitely or goes on much,
yes,
much longer
yes,
than it needs to, that takes away from your ability to earn a livable wage.
yes,
So, in other words, a project that should have taken 30 days now takes 90 days. Well, whatever your profit margin was is now gone.
Yes.
If you work with one client who takes too long. So you have to have all of these things into consideration and work from a very deliberate, very organized perspective so that you can anticipate changes in the weather, so to speak.
Yes.
What if there is another pandemic 5 years from now? Bill Gates has already said that he anticipates that could happen.
Yes.
Why would you not plan for that in advance?
Yes.
Walmart, a global leader, they didn't have home delivery
Yes.
until just recently, at least not where we live. Whole Foods, there's a Whole Foods where we live. It's about a half-hour drive from us. They would not deliver to your home until just a few weeks ago, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, good Lord, I can only imagine how many thousands upon thousands, actually probably hundreds of thousands in revenue they must have lost
Yes.
by just not being able to scale, by taking so long to prepare.
Yeah. To be fair, it's the same here where,
Yeah,
like the delivery slots were like maxing out and people were being hired left and right.
yeah.
Um,
And conversely, if you look at doctors and hospitals,
yes.
how much they've saved in terms of manpower and resources by permitting people to finally have what in the US they call it Teledoc,
Yes.
where it's nothing more than just simply doing video conferencing.
Yes.
And before you'd have to, if I wanted to go see a doctor, it would take me an hour in traffic to drive to
Yes.
the doctor. I would get there, and then what do they ask you to do? Wait in the lobby for a half hour.
Yes.
Then I go in for a simple blood test. I'm out in 10 minutes. Now it's going to take an hour to get home in traffic. Well, we may as well stop at the grocery store. That's going to take another hour to get the groceries. Then you come home. Well, I may as well get gas on the way home. Now suddenly, it's an entire day.
Yes.
Now I can do everything from home. I have more time available to do the work that's idiosyncratic to me, that's more
Yes.
valuable of me
Yes.
than before. So
Yeah,
in many ways, we can all be much more productive now
Yeah,
than
yeah.
we
Because for
could
instance, like for me as
before.
well, you lose your commute, and to be fair, it's
Yeah.
the same here. Now we have video appointments.
Yes,
While before,
absolutely.
it was like there were some private health organizations that were doing it, but that was like a anomaly, if you will. And now everybody's doing it, and yeah, it must
I,
save them a ton of time as well.
oh my
Uh,
God, I started doing it like at least 5 years ago because I remember I would go to meet potential clients in their offices, or I would go and rent a conference room to go meet with clients to review contracts. Again, it takes you an hour with traffic. You get there, you pay out of pocket for the room just to have a conversation to find out if they're actually committed to growing a business or not. Now my process is much, much more streamlined. But we screen, we onboard, then we have a video conference call, and everything can be done much more efficiently that way. And actually, you can get more done in less time, much more expeditiously. The only things I really miss, to be quite honest with you, are some face-to-face interactions with people and being in nature because I'm an animal lover. I love nature. And where I live in the U.S., most people will not wear masks
yes.
and they will not socially distance. They just refuse to do it or they don't understand the concept. So it makes it very difficult for me. If I want to go for a walk in a park, I have to put on an N95, make sure that I stay as far away from other people as humanly possible. And in a lot of these places, it's very difficult to do because you
Yes.
have boardwalks where people, pass you within inches.
Yes.
So if they're not wearing a mask, I have to think, well, is this really worth potentially getting this and becoming very ill,
Yes.
giving this to my wife. Is this really worth it? So I wait until like midnight to go for walks now.
Yes. Yeah,
It's
I can
just
imagine.
most
Yeah.
unfortunate, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I was wondering as well, so how can business better market themselves using both modern digital marketing and more traditional marketing?
Absolutely. And sorry to go off on that previous tangent. Uh, Basically, here's the thing is that digital marketing and traditional marketing, what I call boots on the ground marketing, because I grew up around military bases and I learned a lot from being around military personnel about organization and commitment to objectives. Uh, and I applied a great deal of that as well to what I learned from working for marketing agencies. Digital marketing and traditional marketing are not really separate, although they appear to be. So, most business owners, when they think of marketing, they still think of putting an ad in a newspaper, spending tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, to put an ad on a billboard or the side of a bus. When you can spend a quarter of that to be much more precise and much more targeted in your advertising and in your marketing to really zero in or target, I should say, your specific ideal type of customer or client so that there's much less waste. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that digital marketing and traditional marketing are not separate. They really go hand in glove and work together. So when I onboard a client, for example, digital marketing is my specialty, but it's with that caveat that there's got to be, if you really want to grow exponentially rapidly, we've got to also employ traditional marketing as well. You can't cut off your nose to spite your face, so to speak. You've got to use all avenues that are available to you.
Yeah, makes sense. Like
So,
people,
I mean, I'll give you a great example. I was online earlier, and I'm a mentor for some nonprofits online as well. And someone was asking me, about promoting a beauty supply store. And I said, well, first of all, you've got to have the best company website that you can. You're either going to promote what you sell locally or you're going to promote it nationally. Almost all small businesses start and grow locally first, then grow from that foundational base. So my advice was to make sure that your company website is the best that it can be, that it looks modern, is responsive, meaning it works on every type of device the same way and is tested, that the e-commerce functions as easily for visitors as humanly possible. That you're blogging regularly, you're doing appealing video commercials, you're doing everything you can within your power to give consumers uh, content to digest, if that makes sense. I mean, that's why they call them consumers, because you want to give them content to consume videos, podcasts, blog posts that are written in a fun, engaging manner. And I totally understand that it's difficult to do. And you don't always feel like doing it. And if you're a business owner, you really shouldn't be doing it because you have your own business to run on top of family issues. So there's there's so much that goes into it on different levels, and it requires a good deal of deliberate organization and learning about the individual business, what makes them unique, who their ideal market is or should be if they don't know, who their larger competitors are locally and nationally, and tweaking a organized marketing plan to accommodate their needs and how they're different.
yeah, yeah, and again, completely makes sense. As I was wondering as well, we're counting down to the new year, so I was wondering as well, according to your opinion, what should businesses be focusing on with the new year around the corner?
Oh man, I can't answer that question without some emotional weight. I mean, what should small businesses consider in the new year? Forget about the new year. The new year's already upon us, okay? It has been for quite some time now. And that weight is called COVID-19. It's the collapsing economy. It's a consumer confidence market. Every small business owner should really, really, if they haven't already, said, what can we do to better build our business, to better solidify our base, to reduce overhead, to expand into new markets, and to operate as much as possible online, to automate processes, automate procedures, offer more and varied content to their consumers, and really, really see themselves more as a lean startup type of organization. And I'm sure many people listening have heard of the lean management or the lean startup methodology, but that approach is just as applicable to the small business as it is to the nonprofit, as it is to a church, for example. All organizations can operate like a lean startup. It's just a question of will to do so. And it's really critical at this point in our nation's history in the U.S., and I would imagine in the U.K. as well. I think most governments in most countries' businesses are not doing well, and my heart goes out to them. Um, I wish I could help more.
Yeah, and I think we all like, especially as small business owners, will be like, if you see other small businesses owners struggle, you'll be like, hey, I wish I
But
can
that's
help
what I
you.
would tell them. The
Yeah,
time for getting serious
yeah,
is long gone. It is
yes,
long.
yes,
The train is out of the station, as they say.
yes,
Uh, Make a list of everything that you wish you could do
yeah,
that has value to you as a business owner. That is your ideal world, your ideal scenario. And then decide what are you willing to trade in order to achieve this in terms of time, in terms of, commitment, and know that it can be achieved if you're willing to meet someone halfway who can accomplish that for you.
yes. Yeah, no, that's completely to the point. Yeah, the Cover train has left the station.
Yeah, and also so many small business owners and entrepreneurs really focus in on do-it-yourself DIY and
Yes,
really obsess over the tool of the day. I call it the bright shiny object syndrome.
yes,
Uh, and that's at the expense of actually accomplishing anything. I
yeah,
mean, I can look on Facebook and respond to questions all day. I'm on Quora and LinkedIn and Facebook, and I do not spend half the time that I used to because there's so much that you can get done if you're focused and organized.
yeah.
Do it yourself, also, I have to add, doesn't work unless
Yeah,
do it yourself works if you don't care about the results.
yeah, yeah, and also
So
it's good you bring it up. Like for instance, like myself, I was trying to do more on Quora, and then it's like this is like a major time sink,
it is,
and
it's a time vacuum.
then also I was like, there's not even a guarantee that the people that are the target for my services review
No,
will even see that. So if I
no.
do that, then yeah,
And here's a different approach.
yes,
And tell me what you think. And you listening out there, you can tell me what you think too. You can go to dms.blue and you can email me through my site and ask me questions too. I'm very active online. You can ask me on Twitter. Just go to Twitter and type in DMS Blue. You'll find me right away. What if you took the same effort on Quora and said, look, I'm going to find the same question that's asked repeatedly and simply direct them to a blog post that I wrote on, that addresses this concern. So a very common question for my own field is, how much is a website? I see this every day and it drives me bonkers. So what I tell people is, I say, look, you're participating in a process. You're not purchasing a one and done physical item.
No.
This is an ongoing process that needs fine tuning. As your business grows, you may not see the results that you wanted. Things may break. Your website may be hacked. You may want to write content. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
You need content. SEO
of
needs to
course,
happen.
of course. All of that needs fine tuning and adjusting over time. It's a
Yes.
process. It's service. It's not an item. So I say, look, when you ask how much is a website, how much is SEO, how much is e-commerce, you're hurting yourself by thinking that it's a single item. It's a process. So the investment varies from person to person. I don't know where you are in terms of developing or growing your business, so the prices are going to vary based on what work is involved.
Yes.
So I answered the same question repeatedly, the same way, and then I just say, if you're interested in learning more, here are some helpful blog posts that go into even greater detail. Then if you decide that you actually want to work with an experienced professional, here's how you can reach me. And if you decide you don't want to work with an experienced professional, then I wish you well. God bless you. Have a pleasant journey.
Yeah,
But problems won't go away by magic.
No,
you
no.
know.
And then like a website, like writing blogs and such, all part of it. And then if your blog is not SEO optimized, it's another thing.
It's useless.
Yeah.
Most business websites have no SEO at all, because
No.
let's be honest, they don't know what it is, and it's not their fault. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't ask a small business owner for SEO advice, just as I don't ask the owner of a pizzeria how to fix my car.
Yeah.
They
No,
have
exactly.
area of speciality that they excel in. I'm not a mechanic. I have no idea how to fix my Toyota. I have no
Yes.
clue. I can't even
Well,
do an oil change.
no. To be fair, it's good they have a Toyota. It's probably the the more reliable car.
Right. But
Yeah, but yeah,
the same,
it's the same with like SEO or something. Like I know cybersecurity, but for me SEO is still almost like a magic box, if you will,
right.
that I'm still trying to understand, and I'm quite technical.
And
So
I could
everybody has
talk
his own.
about it. I
Yeah,
could get into the weeds on that topic too,
yeah,
if you want to. At some point, we can come back and talk on SEO.
yeah.
Years ago, when I had a very small agency, it was my wife and I and a handful of freelancers. And I remember once a competitor called me up, and he called me out of the blue, and his exact words were, "You beautiful expletive, expletive." I won't use it on your podcast. And I knew who it was right away, because he had that very gregarious personality.
Yes.
And he was a big, rangy person, and just a lot of fun. And so he asked, well, how did you get to be number one in Google? I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're number one in Google. Did you know? And I said, no, personally, I don't look at it every day. It's too stressful. I
Yes.
just do what I can to move the needle, and I have confidence that things will change. So he said, oh, yeah, you're number one in Google for WordPress developers in the city of Denver, Colorado. How did you do it? And I said, well, I'll tell you. I simply blogged on a daily basis. I wrote about what was happening in the community.
Yes.
I wrote about workshops that I was conducting locally and submitting invitations to people, appealing to local area groups, offering discounts to attend my workshops, and blogging about it day in and day out. And after several weeks of doing that, Google looks at your site and says, wow, this person's very active in this topic, in this demographic.
Yes.
But if people won't blog and don't know how to do it and don't know how to integrate that into their SEO correctly, it's not going to help.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
So sorry to go on and on,
no, it's
but
fine. Like SEO is like is a whole
SEO is
thing in
very
itself.
important.
Yes,
If no one can find you, how are you going to reach them?
exactly.
So that's the problem with Wix and Weebly and Squarespace and all these do-it-yourself templates that small business owners go to like moth to a flame.
Yes.
They don't understand that you get out what you put in,
Yeah.
and it's the law of cause and effect. You think you're going to get something of value for no value. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And these are generic do-it-yourself templates. And I have nothing against these companies personally, but the business model itself, to me, morally, I just feel like you're promising people something that they cannot achieve if they are not experts, and most of them aren't. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you don't know what your SEO should be, you don't know how to implement it, you don't know how to use it technically, then it's of a very minor consequence to you.
Yeah. No, and then I get that. So I was read about your work with the SBA, the Small Business Administration as well. So
Yes.
what did you learn from doing that work?
I learned I don't like stress. I don't like heartache. I realized more about myself than anything that I like to work with clients who want to see outcomes achieved, which at face value sounds silly, but not all business owners want to grow. Not all business owners want more people calling them 24/7 or could handle that. So, yeah, I was a certified small business mentor. That was the exact technical title for quite a number of years for them, off and on through two different cities and two different states. And I really wanted to legitimately help struggling small business owners because I truly care. And there's no feeling like taking a struggling small business owner and saying, because of what I did, they're making more money now. They've got more people calling them. I took them from the brink of declaring bankruptcy to reinvesting profits. And it's a very powerful feeling to be able to say that truthfully and feel it and know it in your heart. Now, being able to do that is more challenging because you have to have the business owner say, yes, I want this. I'll let you do your work. I won't attempt to micromanage or tell you what you should do or what have you. That's the number one challenge. So I would work with all of these business owners, these small business owners, and advise them on what they should do. And after off and on about 10 years, I realized I'm just not, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. It's just too depressing for me because you would see all these nonprofit organizations whose purpose your heart would go out to, but then technically they don't have the 501c3 legal status required to take donations. They're creating a site and they're asking for donations, but legally they can't really accept them yet. They don't have a board of directors, and on and on and on. And you would see these patterns over and over again repeatedly. And then the small business owner, I would offer consultations with them, and you get the same questions year in and year out. So after a while, I just kind of started to get a little bit jaded with it. And I just said, I need to take a step back from this and just say, look, for me, the ideal client is someone who is enterprise level, meaning that they have 50 or more employees. They've been in existence for at least 5 years or more. They've made it through the dark night of the soul. Was it Steinbeck, I think, who used that term maybe. Maybe that was Shakespeare, I think, originally used that term, that they've gone through the Sturm und Drang. They've gone through the hardship and turmoil of growth, and now they're committed. So they can work with you. They want to work with you. They're committed to seeing change.
Yeah, no, and again, like that's, then it's nice to it has, value if you put in effort in as well because you know that
Yeah,
they
and
they want to improve.
Yeah, and it's not to say that I won't work with a small business owner, but I will screen them accordingly to make sure that, do you, and I say this on my own website, I want to work with committed business owners and premium service providers. Now, even if you're not a premium service provider, will I still work with you? Sure, but I want you to believe that you are. Will I work with a business owner who is a small business owner? Sure, but they have to be committed. So
Yeah.
that's why I say that if they're not committed, how can I work with them?
No, of course.
Will they show up for meetings? Maybe, maybe not. Will they see the value in what I do? Maybe, maybe not. Will they be receptive if I, show them some documentation? Will they review it? Well, I don't know. So that's really what this comes down to. It's not about tools. It's not about technical jargon like SEO. It's about mindset. And that's why you see so many people writing about mindset, because that's number one. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. They're too big and too strong.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's so good. I was wondering as well, so what do you feel governments around the world could do better to help small businesses grow?
I would love it if all governments, and of course, I wish it would happen, but they need to have more organizations that I would say would be similar to, and I don't really want to knock one nonprofit, but I would say I would wish that more governments would have organizations to work specifically with small business owners, but do so in a very direct manner that is more focused on helping business owners generate profits quickly, that takes the restraints off of the consultants. So, for example, if someone such as myself wants to help nonprofits, or any business owner for that matter, if we want to charge for our services, we can do so. Many won't permit you to do that, which is ridiculous if you think about it logically. Um, I wish the governments would do more to reach out to struggling business owners, not to offer loans with high interest rates, but direct one-on-one consulting, one-on-one help. Let them do it through video. Don't attempt to micromanage them. And let them help struggling small business owners now, because now is the time, not tomorrow, not 10 years from now, not after you've retired or made sure your own pension is paid up or what have you.
Yeah, again, I was going to say, yeah, especially now, this is where, the government has to
Yes,
reach out,
the need could not be more pronounced right
because
now.
it's one of those things where it's not just a question of potential businesses going under, but like you mentioned before, it's people losing their livelihood, and also effectively the government saying like, yeah, don't try to start your own business because at at, at the moment the, of need where um, you actually can't control it, as in like a pandemic, will drop you, as in you'll be all by yourself,
Charming.
as in we'll close the economy and then we'll only help large businesses.
Absolutely. And they're doing it in the US, they're doing it in other countries.
Yes, yeah,
So, what could governments do to help struggling business owners? They need help.
yes, yeah, and then
Money,
yeah, exactly, and then
yeah. Loans will help,
yeah.
but not with high interest rates.
No,
That's
no, exactly. And
you're
also,
robbing
like there has to be, the even if it's loans, then the loans has to be
repay.
relative to the what the shutdown is.
Of
Um,
course, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and they're gilding their own nests. Of course.
yeah,
I think it's actually probably incorrect to expect them not to look out for themselves and their
no,
own families first.
yes,
We have to be the ones to put conditions on them, and really ask for the help that we need. So I really wish that there was more support for struggling small business owners who need it the most and make up the backbone of any government in any country, whether it's Spain or Italy or the United Kingdom
Yeah.
or where have you. The small business owner, the entrepreneur, makes up the bulk of business in all nations, and they
Yes.
need
Yeah.
help. Throwing
Exactly.
money doesn't necessarily solve the problem. You can throw money at a problem, but if you don't know how to invest it properly, it won't do you any good.
No, 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 and then this is the thing as well, like it's the small businesses that spend within locally within the country. Well,
Yes,
it's a large enterprise that have the money to basically offshore, where
yeah,
basically is actually costing you money.
that's right.
Um, so yeah, it's interesting, and I think governments looking back when the of course the committees will come and such and the
hmm
reports will come.
I
There will be like little lines in there. It will go like, oh yeah, yeah, we abandoned small business and we shouldn't have
yes,
done that.
I remember back in the '60s, the late great civil rights leader here in the U.S. Malcolm X said in one of his speeches, he said that uh, that African Americans, especially during the very, very tumultuous civil rights era, and one would argue today as well, should patronize black-owned businesses over the white-owned businesses. And I'm not saying I advocate that one way or the other at this point, but when you shop locally, the money stays in your community. I guess that was my point. Was what he was saying is that, and it's actually in his speech. He says that at the end of the day, that business owner takes their basket of money, uh, literally, and they take it home to them in their neighborhoods and where they live, and they don't invest it where you live. It would be naive to expect them to. So, we should support local businesses. We should support local business owners if we can. And then that's where the local business owner has to be willing and able to adapt with changing times. I would order my groceries from local grocery stores if there were any, and if I could order from them online and they would deliver to the door, which none of them will. So I have no choice but to use Amazon or Instacart because
Yeah,
none of them locally will. I
no,
remember when
no.
the pandemic started, there was a local pub that I read about that said no one's coming to our pub to eat. Well, okay, that's tragic. What are you going to do about it? So they started selling food that they could order in bulk quantity as a restaurant. So they started selling the food to regular citizens who could go to the restaurant and pick up, 50 pounds of pasta or what have you. But of course, they were still requiring that you come into the restaurant to pick it up, which kind of defeats the whole purpose. They wouldn't offer home delivery. They couldn't accept online payment. So you're not solving the dilemma. You're perpetuating it.
Yeah, yeah, and it is interesting you bring it up. So one of the things that again, large versus small was that, for instance, just in the US, it's the same thing. Like the large supermarkets, of course, nowadays sell more than just food. So
Yeah,
they would be considered essential and allowed to stay open, and then the rest of the shops would close. So basically, the large supermarkets would make extra money because literally the only place you could still get clothing was the supermarket.
right. And there
Yeah,
is no business owner today,
yeah,
not a single one. I challenge anyone to ask me about this. There's no business owner today, any type of business, that could not better market and promote itself using digital marketing, going online, or coordinating digital marketing with traditional marketing in some way or another.
yes,
There's always a way to
yes,
improve,
yeah,
whether it's the accountant or the lawyer. Well, I think in the UK they're solicitors
yes,
because they solicit, um, quite literally. I mean, whatever the profession is, you should be online. You should be taking payments. You should be looking at SEO. You should be thinking about, is this a hobby that I just do for shits and giggles, as they say? Or is this something that you take very seriously and you're committed to and you're willing to invest?
Yes. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
It's
and
one of
now is
those.
the time to get real.
Exactly. So I was wondering as well, if a budding entrepreneur would ask you for one piece of advice, what would it be?
Decide. That's what I would say. I would say decide which side you're on and be honest with yourself. There's no harm in having a hobby. I have plenty of hobbies. I still enjoy video games and watching movies. It's a hobby. I never say it's a business because it cannot generate income. I have no interest in it generating income. So I would say aspiring business owners and entrepreneurs to be honest with themselves. Is this a hobby that you do for fun? Or is this meant to be a business that could potentially support a family? And don't say that it is, and don't say that this is your goal unless you're willing to fully commit 100% and be willing to trade your comfort. Um, are you willing to trade your comfort and peace of mind in order to achieve what your goal is? It's kind of a Buddhist concept of cause and effect. But in order to achieve the specific objective that you want, and the more clearly defined it is, the greater the likelihood of you achieving it. So you shouldn't be afraid of being clear on this. The more clearly defined the objective, the greater the likelihood of achieving it. But you've also got to be willing to trade your comfort
Yes, yes, yes.
in
So yeah,
order to achieve this. Because
I,
when I was able to support my wife with my agency, I didn't play video games. Let's be honest. I didn't read. I didn't have time to reread the classics. It
yes,
was about hustling and having workshops and boot camps and bringing in new clients on a regular basis and emailing and calling agencies and asking for work and changing my SEO and blogging with the very specific goal
yes,
of attracting eyes. And now, thank God, knock on wood, I don't have to do that. I can be a podcast guest.
yes. Yes, yeah, yeah. And to be fair, podcasting as well, and even guesting is a form of marketing as well.
Exactly. I'm still marketing, but I'm
Exactly,
taking a more indirect approach. I can
exactly.
be a guest on podcasts, which I enjoy very much.
Yeah.
Uh, but is it as productive as teaching a boot camp or workshop online or in person, which is what I did back then, of
Yeah.
course? The answer would probably be no.
No.
So you really got to look at what you say you want to do and be honest with yourself and be as authentic and as real with yourself as you
Exactly. Yeah,
can.
you need to look
It's
at
hard.
what your most effective activity is, and then focus on that. And you have to be willing to put in the work now, so you don't have to put in the work later.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly. And I always tell business owners, look, if you're willing to meet me halfway across the street, I'll meet you there.
yes.
But if you're not willing to commit, and then if you tell me, oh well, my budget is $100 or something, which I guess in the UK would be 100. Is it euros or pounds? I
Pounds,
forget.
pounds.
Pardon me, UK listeners, please
No, that's
excuse
fine.
me.
That's fine.
But unless you have realistic expectations and you've conducted at least some basic research, don't expect the needle to move. Yeah, so you've got to be willing to put forth the good faith effort, so to speak.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I always offer free consultations for people, but I screen them accordingly before that
Yes.
and during that, and then just say, okay, here's my input, and I can or can't help you, but you've got to make it so that you can get there.
Yeah, exactly. So then, yeah, but yeah, to finish, last question I had on a slightly more personal note, if you will. If you had a
Sure.
magic wand, what would you want to make happen?
Oh boy. Well, I would have to say I would want world peace because I think I do think that it would help business. I
Of
do
course,
think
yeah. Yeah.
but I also think it would help people individually be able to give of themselves more freely, and I think it would empower business owners to be more able to think in global terms and not see themselves as members of individual tribes or, here in the US we have Republicans versus Democrats. One group is we're very fiscally conservative. We favor millionaires over working class people. We're not really in favor of social reform measures and things of that nature. And then you have the other group that is in favor of that. Um, I know in the UK, I know about the Tories, I think, and Labour and so on, but I think you have more parties than they do in the US. But it's
Yeah.
created a very tribal, very toxic stew, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. This is the funny you bring it up. Like, so yeah, basically the UK, in a way, it's got like a two-party system, as in there's other parties, and at one point the UK had a coalition government with
Mm,
Liberal Democrats. So the Tories are basically almost like a left-wing version, I would almost say,
yeah,
of the
yeah.
of the Republicans. So
But I
compared
think,
to but the funny part, and this is the background. So originally coming from the Netherlands, I'm used to coalition governments.
mm,
And why I prefer that is that you give people that are more marginalized, they can have
mm,
their own party, they can have
right.
representation,
And
and
they're going to
because they
make
have to,
money. They're
no, no,
going to
no,
make money for the government. They're going to pay taxes. So it's in everyone's best interest to empower
it
them.
was more like it's a representation thing. So
Yeah,
basically, yes, that particular party, for instance, might only have 2 seats in the government, but at least you represent it, so you don't feel
yes.
disenfranchised.
And the funny thing is, if you look at this from a business perspective,
Yeah,
as well as from a moral perspective, when you do what's right,
yeah,
just what you know morally is the correct thing to do, everybody benefits. The economy is better off for it.
yes,
Individuals are better off for it. People are happier. They live longer. They can be more productive for it. So it's in everyone's favor to really do what's right
yes,
instead of robbing Peter to pay Paul
yes.
or gilding your own nest or what have you, where people have short-term perspectives. And I mean, I think so much of the decisions that governments make and that individuals make when they vote for these leaders are based on fear,
Yes,
not on
specifically, like in two-party
fear of the
countries,
other, fear of
it's
the
fear of the other
unknown,
side.
fear of the other, the
Yeah,
scary other, or
yes,
fear of the unknown.
uh,
And if you look at it from a spiritual perspective and just say, look, scientifically we know the universe is always expanding.
yes,
Now, therefore, opportunity must be expanding.
yeah,
If you look at it from that perspective and just say, look, let's give the small business owners what they need without all these strings attached to it. Let's not be afraid of people who don't look like us
yeah,
or don't sound like we do, because if they contribute equally, we'll all be better off. Let's
yes,
just do what we know is right and, vote for whoever is in favor of expansion, not what they say, but what they actually do.
yes,
Vote for who's people ask me, well, who do I vote for? I vote for whoever I believe is going to help the working man, the
yes,
working man and woman, who will help the independent bookstore owner, who will help the business owner. And if that makes me liberal, so be it. I don't care. It's about helping the business owner, because in so doing you help everyone.
yeah, yeah. It's like if you empower the small business, those are the people that can help the community.
Absolutely.
That's where it's at.
Microsoft was founded in a garage
Yeah,
Bill Gates quit the company he worked at because they didn't listen to him.
Yeah.
They were not receptive to his ideas. So he asked a handful of other programmers, would you guys be interested in working on some projects outside of this company? Don't let them know. So they said, okay, Bill, we'll go with you. And so they started this company in their garage and called it Microsoft.
Yeah.
Now he's doing quite well for himself.
Yes.
And the same is true for Steve Jobs, who, if you think about it, was nothing more than a marketing expert.
Yes.
He was a master of marketing.
Yes.
Let's take computers and make them look really pretty and make them different colors and tell people through our marketing commercials
the
that
difference
they are
if they
unique.
buy our brands.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
buy the brand.
Yeah.
They're 3 times as more expensive as any other type of computer, if not more so.
Yes. To
And
be
they're
fair,
all slightly different.
I'm a Mac person myself, so I'm reflecting myself. But he
I
was
like what
brilliant at
works.
marketing. Yes.
I'm in favor of what works.
Yes.
That will help me do my job and is more efficient. So that's how I
Exactly.
look at it.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm sorry to have been so loquacious.
No, this is fine. We can talk for hours. I'm willing to bet. So yeah, thank you for your time. For listeners listening right now, whether you're on a surfboard, on a space rocket going to Mars, in the ocean, on the beach, wherever you are, do let me know. Reach out, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you for tuning in this episode. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I look forward to having you tune in again next episode. See you next time.